Who
Here
doesn't?
we, hi, Kris.
Hi, Kitty.
We are live. We are pushing this out on LinkedIn Live today. We're going to hang here for a couple of minutes as LinkedIn pushes this out. And all of the people who have registered for today get the notification. So this might take a couple of minutes before we've got our audience all queued up and ready to go. So, Kris, you and I should just chat for a little bit.
Oh, I would love that.
How are you today?
We don't get to very often.
We don't, even though right now we are actually in the same building.
That's correct.
Kris is down the hall. We are coming to you today from Heroic Productions. We are in Bloomington, Minnesota. Bloomington is a suburb of Minneapolis, if you're not local to us, and you may not be familiar with the Twin Cities. So, yes, we are here in the world headquarters.
Yes.
Of Heroic Productions.
And we're in the middle of the country, which makes it easy to get anywhere. That's what I always tell people.
Definite advantages of being
That's true.
In the middle of the country. Yes, absolutely. This is our very first virtual Please Welcome, so we're excited to share a little bit of information about that. As you join us today, please drop a comment. This is our first time using this platform, so we're excited to explore this today, and we'll probably learn a few things as we go along. So it would be helpful to us to know that you're here. So if you can, if the comment function does work, please drop a comment, say hello, and also tell us where you're tuning in from. That would be really helpful as well. We do have McKenna behind the scenes. McKenna is the marketing manager here at Heroic, so she can also drop us a message from time to time. Let us know if there are any questions coming in from our audience. We always want to acknowledge that as well. So we're going to talk about speakers and entertainment today. We're going to talk about Please Welcome. I'm going to introduce you to Kris Campbell, who is our featured guest today. We'll kick us off here formally in just a couple of minutes. But like I said, I think we do want to just hang here for a few minutes to let people jump in. All right, good. Well, John, I see your comment. Thank you for letting us know. Amy has joined us from downtown Minneapolis. Awesome. Hello, Kelsey. Thanks for jumping in from the western suburbs. Thank you guys so much for being here. We're very excited about Please Welcome. I think some of the people who will be tuning in today have experienced this in studio. We are turning this over into the virtual world today in LinkedIn Live. So should we go ahead and get started, Kris?
Yeah, why not?
All right.
I think so.
Okay, let's go. So an official welcome to Please Welcome here on LinkedIn Live. My name is Kitty Hart. I'll be your host today as we take this amazing new speaker series that launched in 2022 as an in-studio experience right here to the virtual world. If you are not familiar with Heroic Productions, I am pleased to share just a little bit about us. For the past 20 years, we have been designing and producing in-person, virtual, and hybrid events for corporations and organizations all throughout the country. As I said right at the top of the show, we are located in Bloomington, Minnesota. Bloomington is a suburb of Minneapolis, but we travel constantly. We travel the world as we execute events. So our crews are traveling all the time.
All over the place.
All over the place. It's very quiet in here today because they are on the road. Now, as part of our ongoing commitment to the event industry, Heroic launched Please Welcome, which is a speaker series. And I am thrilled to sit down today with my esteemed colleague, Kris Campbell, to talk a little bit more about Please Welcome and a very specific component of event design and production that she leads here at Heroic. So Kris, welcome.
Thank you. You're my esteemed colleague too, Kitty, just so you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We'll go back. We'll go back and we'll share more specifically about what Please Welcome is. But before we do that, please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. You know how much I love that. But
I know.
I will talk about myself for just a minute.
Okay.
Just to give everybody a little tiny background. So I spent my 30-year career working in the various sides of this industry, the meetings and events industry, of course, always in the casting director role. It's my job to discover and source the speaker that will bring the right message, fit the culture of the organization, and also be willing to see themselves. This is something that's important to me as an integral piece of the overall goal of the event. So in other words, they're not just delivering a message and walking off the other side of the stage. They get how they fit and why they're important there. The exact same thing holds true for entertainment. If it doesn't elevate the event, there's no reason to spend the money. Over the years, I've engaged in conversations with, as you can imagine, executives, agents, experts, thought leaders, and artists. And agents and more agents. These are the questions that I think about when researching all kinds of talent. Does the speaker's thought leadership elevate audiences to think differently and, more importantly, do differently? Will the artist show up for the audience or just dial it in like any other performance? We don't want that. No. And we've all been in an audience when they really did show up. It's magical.
You can absolutely tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And will they be, whatever the talent is, will they be willing to create a unique experience, whatever that may mean for that event? I sort of live in this space of what's possible. And that's what keeps me doing what I do. So it's been 30 years of kind of doing that in various capacities.
Okay. That's great. I love when Kris and I do have a chance to sit down and chat, I'm always asking her, tell me the good stories, tell me the good stories. Maybe we'll get to some of that today. So our very first Please Welcome took place in August of 2022, right here at Heroic in Studio 15. Studio 15 is our on-site production studio. Kris, tell us a little bit about how this event series was born and what it's all about.
Yeah, there are several reasons. And certainly I wasn't the only one who was driving this, but I've always wanted to create an event that allows clients to see a thought leader or an artist in an intimate setting with high production value, which is what we have in Studio 15. And, being able to see the speaker or the artist in not just giving their performance or their part of their keynote, but also in conversation and interacting with the audience. It's something that buyers don't typically get to see. It's not part of a promo video. You don't see that on a speaker's website. So, it's a really special environment in our studio if you get to be there live. And I don't know, I think there are a couple of components here we didn't think about, which were bonuses. But the second one, before I get to the bonuses, is that we have this beautiful studio and it's big enough to hold about 100-person live audience. And it's tough for creative people like us not to think of cool ways to use a space like that. So that was kind of what gave the whole thing birth, was like, let's do something special in here for our clients and, whoever wants to come be part of that. Yeah. The bonus that I personally didn't think about was how much they would love when they showed up to network with each other. And we've found that to be true. People want to hang around afterwards and not just talk to the speaker, but be with each other and talk about what's going on in the events world right now. And I would say the other bonus that we've learned is and are excited about is that we have been able to record these events and then share it virtually afterwards with so many more. And I think, what Kitty and I are doing here today is doesn't have the in-studio component, but it'll give you an idea of kind of what we're going to do in between those live events. Yeah.
Yeah, it was created for marketers, for event planners, for people who want to network. And it is a great opportunity for us to highlight people, speakers, entertainers who are available for events. Certainly, there is no shortage of networking events. around, but we really feel like this has something extra special. And you're right, the speakers hang around afterward. They're just
Yeah.
regular people. They want to network too.
Well, we're also trying to, I should say this, you know, and it's not just the hot speaker or somebody that happens to be in town. We're really trying to curate this, I guess would be the word, with people that actually have very compelling content that is relevant and current, so that there's a real educational component to this as well.
Yeah. So our first speaker in August was Denise Soler Cox. Amazing. Our speaker in February was Daryl Davis. Also amazing. You can see both of those events by visiting the Please Welcome section of our website. So even though you weren't able to be there in person, as Kris said, we have the full event on our website. So be sure to go and check those out. Okay, so Kris, let's talk more specifically about what you do at Heroic. As the Vice President of Speakers and Entertainment, my first question for you is why was it important for Heroic to add speakers and entertainment to our core capabilities?
Well, let me just put it this way. Heroic works with clients to design and produce events. Speakers and entertainment just happen to be part of most of those events that we produce. And we have found that working together as a team brings about a much more cohesive event. So that's one of the biggest reasons. I also think it's just interesting that maybe not right, but it's the way it tends to work. The conversation about content, the ideas around how they're going to present that content, who's going to do it other than the executives themselves, that tends to happen early on in the process. So you know, we're not dumb. We thought at Heroic, why not, as we're growing up and becoming a full service production company here, and it's so many exciting things going on, why not add that to the overall process and offering that we bring to our clients? It's been really fun and exciting.
I would assume too that it's one of those components that can seem rather daunting for a client when they're thinking about, okay, we know who from our executive team is going to speak, but you know what, we really want to get that amazing person that people come to the event and they think, oh my gosh, can you believe who we got to see on our stage? I would assume that some clients look at that and they go, I don't know where to begin. I don't have any idea how to get Allie Love on my stage or whoever it might be. So tell us a little bit about how you work with your clients. What does the process look like?
Yeah. And the truth is, to some clients, I think it's daunting, and to some clients, the part of the research or finding the person might not be, because they're used to, Googling and looking for that person. I think the part that sooner or later people learn is that just because they have a big name or they're done something really amazing doesn't mean they're going to show up at your event and be able to tell a story that really lands in that audience in an engaging way and supports the overall objectives of the event. So there's sort of a lot of little things to put through the funnel to make sure you have the right speaker. So to answer your question, I think organizations have learned to expect more from a well-designed event, but they sometimes want to rush the first part of the process. We all know budgets today have very specific ROI attached, and that means that the event design starts with clearly defined goals. So I sort of front load the process, I really front load the process to make sure that we get complete clarity on what those goals are. And that often takes some time.
Okay.
It seems like, everybody would have that nailed, but they often want to start before they get that part done. And then we just go round and round, you know what I mean? Because nobody has really defined what they need to have happen, and that it trickles down throughout the entire event. So anyway, once that happens, once we have that, those goals clearly defined, we start talking about the elements that are known, like, the venue, the audience demographics, the CEO or other executive messages, an award show, education, that kind of thing, which really, when you think about it, you're laying out an agenda. Now we no longer have a blank page. We have limitations, which is kind of how I have to see it.
Yeah.
But the funny part is that triggers creativity more than a blank page does. So I've learned to love that stage of the process, because that's when I get to put my bizarre brain, creative brain, to work with that Rolodex of talent that's in my head. So I kind of embrace those limitations, put the creativity work, always keeping that end in mind, thinking in place. I produce the ideas, so it's sometimes they give me a few, but normally I'm coming up with a lot of ideas that are a really good fit for all of those things we just talked about, which means I know they're going to fit with that company culture. I know they're great in front of a large audience or a small, intimate audience, whatever it happens to be. Are they salespeople? Are they engineers? Like, who is the speaker talking to, and are they going to be able to handle that audience? That all goes into this lovely little package. And we often get the two top speakers on the phone with the decision makers. That's smart, so that they can actually hear a bit of their personality, ask them those very specific questions that you don't find answers to on the website or in the demo video. And then a decision is made, a firm offer is presented, or negotiation first, then a firm offer, and an agreement. You often walk in when I'm working on those.
I do. I see you reading the legal documents. Yes. I know when to walk away.
No.
Yeah.
But I think the fun part of our process is that we don't stop there when the agreement's done. We work with our own design and production team, to integrate the talent into the event. I often think this is, if not the most important part, certainly the part that brings about maybe kind of the surprise to the audience, because finding surprising ways to integrate talent is really what makes people, sit forward in their seats, lean in a little bit, and engage. So if it's just speaker, everybody with PowerPoint, you know how that is. We don't want that. Not for a minute.
So, and it just dawned on me. I mean, we're talking a lot about speakers, but you do speakers and entertainment. We chatted about this a little bit this morning, that you could talk for hours on both of these subjects. There are certainly components that overlap.
Yes.
You go through the same process for entertainment, correct?
True. I was just going to say that.
Okay.
Yes, it's very similar process.
Okay.
Thinking about, what venue are you in? Who's going to be in the room? What does that agenda look like? Where do we need to interject energy, and of what kind? Whether it's in the general session or at an awards event or an after party. I mean, it's those limitations and goals that you, like I said, you kind of put them through the funnel, and then figure out. And of course, budget always comes into play. But it's important to take all those things into consideration, and put yourself in the room. And it's kind of like creating a movie. I tell you this every once in a while.
Yeah.
It really is. There are lots of pieces. We're telling a story. And these aren't pieces that we just drop in randomly. They are like pieces to a puzzle, or parts of a movie that tell a story, and eventually first maybe cause people a little disruption, like what's going on, and then cause them to engage. And at the end, we hopefully have accomplished that. I understand what they're doing here. I know my role in this, and they go home, with a different kind of a very clear challenge. And I think that's the wonderful part about bringing people together. The talent piece of it is, in some, I think, people's minds, small, but it can also be mighty, if you know what I mean. A really big component that causes people to remember.
Yeah.
If you're having fun, or you're learning more because it's engaging, all those things matter when you bring people together.
Yeah. So I could make some assumptions, but where where are the challenges? So that's a pretty involved process that you go through. What are the most challenging components of the
Well,
process?
yeah, it is a big conversation. So maybe just to keep it to the most important one, that is, I alluded to earlier, the hardest. And I think it's that getting to that clarity about, the goals for their organization. They usually have those nailed. But
Mhm.
what are the goals for the event? And how is that going to cause them to move their strategy forward? And if I get those two things, because you learn a lot about who they are and what they do and what's the reason they're spending the money in the first place,
Mhm.
then when you drill down to the minutia about the event and the story they're telling, it becomes so much more clear, and it allows for creativity, because speakers, let's just take a topic of leadership or innovation. I could list 20 speakers on each of those categories that each have a different take on
Mhm.
that, certainly maybe specific to an industry, maybe specific to like Indra Nooyi, who was
Mhm.
head of PepsiCo, and how she came at leadership in her role. Or
Mhm.
maybe it's, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
Yeah.
there's so much minutia and interesting detail around each speaker.
Mhm.
And sometimes real ways that pop when you know a lot about the company. Um, there are parallels, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow, this particular speaker could really pop in and maybe interview the CEO, or we could put them in a video because they have exactly the perfect story to
Mm.
tell that is in alignment with the company and their goals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that clarity piece is just, it's the most important part.
Interesting. Okay. And so I certainly have learned a lot about this um, specific component of events since I joined the heroic team, since I've sat down and had conversations with you. I love, boy, it's such an amazing treat when you get to work with a true expert. And you certainly are, Kris. And so certainly over the 30 years that you've been doing this, you have developed an approach that is unique. It's one of the
Yeah.
reasons why, Heroic jumped at the chance to say, yes, this is going to be part of our offerings. What makes your approach unique?
Well, I don't want to make myself sound special. It's because that's not what I think. I think the reason it's unique is because my experience has been unique.
Yeah.
So I did spend 8 years in a traditional speakers bureau, but the whole rest of my career, which is actually more than 30 years, but we don't say that out loud much,
Yeah.
has been within a production company. So from that first year at the first production company, which I was at for 17 years, I was doing both speakers and entertainment, and had to learn that the hard way, and had to build all those relationships with both agents and artists directly when possible. Sometimes management as well. But um, I think I think the experience of both, and always being in this role where I'm part of, or at least have visual to the entire event and
Mhm.
that process, makes a
Mhm.
tremendous difference. So we talked about that casting role. A casting director
Mhm.
can't cast a movie unless they know the whole story, right? So it's like that. I'm involved in the big conversations with decision makers regarding the goals for the event. Then I'm working with our team who's designing and producing the event. And so when it comes time to look for talent, um, it's a different kind of thinking. So it's like big picture, minutia, big picture. It goes back and forth to the detail in the big picture, and always remembering, that I was like a little post-it note at the end, which is, why are they spending the money?
Yeah.
So it's different. I guess this is another way of putting it. It's
Mhm.
different than responding to a call where a client is asking for, we need a speaker on innovation. And not having that same context. You can ask the questions, but it's hard to get there the way we're able to
Mhm.
because of our relationships with our clients. It's true, and I should probably interject this. I do also work with people whose events we aren't producing who need talent.
Right.
But I am aware that that I am very detailed in our conversations, and
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I try to get there as much as I can, and
Mhm.
make that process very similar to the ones when we are producing the event.
Yeah. Makes so much sense. So over my, 25 plus year career, I've worked at a few agencies, and I've certainly attended countless number of conferences and events. And I feel like for a while, this was definitely pre-pandemic, but for a while, it felt like I was seeing the same speakers show up at all of these
I
conferences,
know that
same
happens.
futurist, the same, motivational, etc. So I've always been so impressed by the breadth of the just the wise options that you provide to our clients.
Thank you.
And yeah. And so, I'm always asking you the question.
I know what's coming. I know what's coming.
So, who's hot right now? Well, I'm always walking into Kris's office and saying, "Oh, can we book so and so? Can we book so and so?"
And the answer is usually yes. We'll
Yeah.
find someone who wants to book them. Yes.
Exactly, right.
Um,
So, but I'm sure people tuning in have the same question, "Who's hot right now?"
yeah. And I'm gonna try to answer that as best I can, but
Mhm,
there's always an element of what's new and exciting. But what is relevant and incredibly engaging is always what wins with our clients. So I just have to say that first.
'kay.
So my brain rarely goes to the who's hot question. What
Mhm,
it does go to is, um, what topics, because there are very new areas of interest right now for clients. Um, Lots of DEI, belonging is huge. We're
okay.
getting, that's just all of a sudden a word everybody's talking about. Mental health is
Mhm,
coming up a lot. We're people, and people work within organizations, and when people aren't healthy, organizations aren't healthy. And I think that's a big thing right now, given what we all just came out of.
yeah.
And there's lots of other things. So how I'm going to answer your question is there's also a little thing called, fees, speaker fees. So
A
I
little
thought it
thing.
might be helpful to maybe break down a couple of categories and give some ideas of a
Okay.
few people who are solid, number one, home
Mhm,
runs every single time,
mhm,
but also are either taking risks with their topics, creating something that isn't currently out there, or some hitting some of those topics I just talked about, which are new topics for corporate for the most part. The first one, and I'm going to start with the lower end, because 15 or under is a tough category, 15,000 or
okay.
under for a speaker fee. So whether it's 5, 10, 15, whatever,
Mhm,
it usually means somebody that's up and coming, not always, but usually. And I don't know, I just feel like the bottom kind of fell out in that lower range for people that were really solid, dependable, lots of
okay.
experience kind of thing. So I'm going to mention Mark Mayfield, who has been around forever.
Mhm,
For people that know National Speakers Association, he's a Hall of Fame speaker, which is the highest honor you can get.
mm,
And his newest presentation is on mental health. It's called Find Your Day, and it's phenomenal.
mm,
It's very authentic and a little emotional, but also funny. It's
mm.
the right balance of all those things, and people are raving about it. I love that, and I didn't see that one coming, and I'm extremely impressed. Daryl Davis, who we had at Please Welcome, I have to mention because I don't think enough people um, Well, I don't know what it takes to hire someone like Daryl. Because to me, once you see him, you want everybody to see him.
Yeah.
He's the real deal. He's a musician and author, internationally acclaimed conflict navigator, compelling unifier, and clan whisperer.
It's amazing.
His
And
stories,
how great to be a speaker and an entertainer all rolled up
yes,
into one, right?
which in the studio was phenomenal to hear
Yeah.
him speak and talk with him and watch him perform.
Mm.
Was incredible. But I think just for people who might be afraid of that kind of a topic, which, by the way, there's no need to be. His whole thing is about conversation. We need to talk to each other more, and he's proven it with the work that he's done, bringing countless people out of the Klan and other white supremacist groups. So we need more conversation. There's no question in my mind. This country needs more of Daryl Davis.
Yeah.
I'm also going to bring up the consistency chain, which is something George Campbell just came out with. He's also a Hall of Fame speaker, like Mark. And it's about the most assumed, least developed organizational human asset. It's like consistency. It seems so simple. And yet, if you really think about it, if companies were more consistent, they would be more successful. So
Yeah.
again, companies are made up of people, and we need help with that. It's a phenomenal, funny program, but it's one that CEOs just eat up because, if you can get 80% of your people to be more consistent, you've most likely doubled your revenue.
Yeah.
And then the last one in that category is a friend of ours, Chris Heater. I think you might be on here today, Chris, and I hope you are. Kitty and I are big fans of your Wild program,
Yes.
which is all about having the courage to bring the gift of all of who you are to all of what you do. I just love that so much. And you can go to these people's website and check them out further. But Chris is really special. She works with what do you call it? Mushing dogs. I'm losing it right now. But anyway. Dog sled, yeah. And she's, out in the wilderness all the time. Her stories of what nature can do for us always fill me up. Then the next category is kind of that 25 to 50 range. There are so many in. I wanted to bring up Denise Solaire Cox because her topic is huge right now. She's just blowing up, and for very good reason. She tells her own story that she put out in the world. The other thing about the next three speakers that I'm going to mention is it's not just a speech. Denise also has a film, an award-winning film that's 38 minutes long that supports her topic. That is a wonderful thing to add to her event, and then bring her on afterwards with a Q&A. And you will get farther than most DEI programs that they're trying to push through organizations right now. She's a gem. Vinh Giang, who's from Vietnam, and he went back there for a while, went back to Australia where he immigrated, and then was in the States for a while, and now he's back. Vin teaches us through magic. It sounds wrong, but it's beautiful. He teaches us that anything is possible and that all our beliefs dictate our actions. It's one of the most fun, powerful, consistently solid presentations I've ever seen. I adore that man. Wow. And another one that has been around for a long time from the Twin Cities actually is Phil Hansen. He's an artist, and he uses his art to help attendees invent different approaches to embrace personal and professional limitations through his art. He's brilliant and extremely good virtually as well. There's an audience participation piece where he has audience through thumbprint art and other kinds of things create a piece. He goes away and puts all the pieces together, and you have your logo or a picture of someone important. It's phenomenal. He's one of my favorite people to listen to, and I'm always surprised. Cool. Then we get in the higher ranges. Jay Shetty, a lot of people know who he is, former monk, New York Times bestselling author, life and purpose coach. I can't say enough about health and wellness. You probably know a lot about his podcast and his virtual wisdom videos. I think they've garnered over 8 billion views. Like he's He's a big deal. So
Yeah.
there's a hot speaker right there. And I think Patty McCord on the future of work. She was the former chief talent officer at Netflix. And she just has this approach where she applies Silicon Valley thinking and concepts to the way we work. And it's fascinating because, as we all know, our workplaces have changed and continue to.
Right.
And I mentioned her before, Indra Nui,
Yeah.
way in the higher ranges. She was the former chief executive officer at PepsiCo. She talks about doing well by doing good. She teaches a master class on leading with purpose. And she's brilliant. One of those keynotes that you think about for months and years after you hear her.
Yeah. Kris,
so that's how I'm going to answer.
So there's a question, Kelsey, great question.
Yeah.
On timing. Do you see the chat there?
I do not.
Okay, so Kelsey says, it has been my experience that events that are being planned, we've got shorter and shorter timelines all the time, right? It's just the way of the world.
Yeah.
How far out do you recommend booking a keynote speaker?
Oh, that's as far out as you possibly can. I guess the bottom line is you have to have things in place before it makes sense. So unless your speaker is going to be clearly, maybe it's a customer event or something, and you need that draw. So you're looking, who you want, it's a big name. Those kind of people you need to book very far out. But otherwise, if it's a person that's supporting content within your event, you got to get those key goals in place first, and probably some of your agenda. So I guess my answer is just as soon as possible. You can certainly put someone like me to work, maybe before you're completely there with your agenda and timing, as long as you have clarity around what you want that speaker to do. Because I can be doing research and putting together ideas, and then we can hone in on the exact date and timing later and hope for the best. So
I know you've had really short timeline requests, right? And
crazy short. I'm working in stuff right now that's for April, and got one request yesterday for early May. So I mean, it is short timeframes, but there's a lot of speakers out there. I got to say, the floodgates opened in the last few years. It seemed like a lot of people that I've known forever who were, just wonderful at their craft, decided to retire. And maybe due to COVID, not wanting to do the virtual thing. I don't know why, but holy smokes, the whole, the faucets are on in the bathtub and the drain's open and it's changing. So it's there's plenty of speakers out there. Let me just put it that way.
Yeah.
Can't get one. There's no doubt somebody else that's doing the same thing or something similar.
And I love the fact that you shared the range, right? From the 25K fee range to the 200K and above. Because I feel like I hear frequently, when I am just chatting about this topic with people, I get the feeling that they're like, oh yeah, we could never afford that. The reality is that in that lower or mid-range, what intrigues me about that is that you're likely to see somebody that is going in this direction.
That's so true.
And
that's so true.
When you think about those headlines, you think about the big concert that you go to and the person who opens for them, and then 5 years later, you're like, I saw them when they were opening for, whatever. It's so you can see somebody, and you are wonderful at finding those people that are up and coming.
Well, I mean, it happens on occasion when you're paying attention and you do this every day. You see somebody special and they need a little work. But they have the right information and they're very authentic and that's enough for certain clients. So, you can put them out there and watch them just explode. The other thing in that fee category is very often there will be people who've already been to the peak who are reinventing right now and
Ah,
coming back. And you don't get to come back in up here typically
yeah,
unless you're, a celebrity or, Dan Pink,
yeah,
with many,
yeah.
many books behind you. So, yeah, you're right. They're either on their way up or
Mhm,
possibly going through that reinvention process and won't be there for long
mhm,
because they know
yeah,
how this works.
yeah. So we will probably wrap in the next 5 or 8 minutes or so. I think we wanted to try to keep this to 45 minutes today. So if anyone listening, watching, if you do have any questions, drop those into the comments now. This is really valuable time with Kris. So I want to get as many questions in front of her as possible. And then also say you are super accessible.
Yeah.
If you have questions about this specific area that Kris leads, you can reach her through our website. You can reach her directly. Kris, your email, K Campbell, right? K
Yep.
Campbell at heroic-productions.com. And, if you can
Yeah.
get her at the right time, she might tell you some of the juicy stories.
I'm
Might.
not telling them here today. Don't even.
No, I know that we don't do that. So one last question for you, and
Yeah.
then we will start to wrap. Well, first of all, Arthur, thank you. I want to acknowledge Arthur's comment. Um, Arthur says hello to Kris and team. Kris is awesome to work with.
Aw.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Wonderful.
Arthur. I know who you are.
um, what do you want people to know about Heroic's expertise in speakers and entertainment?
Um, I think I'm proud of the way that we deliver content and entertainment in powerful, meaningful, and unexpected ways. It's fun to deliver those big stars to the stage, but that's just one part of a really complex process. Awareness, access, and buying power all factor in.
Mhm.
And I think we talked about this a little bit, but the intangible difference lies in the integration of the talent. Every show has a story, and every act we produce helps tell it.
Mm.
And I think that's what I want people to know, that's how we approach every single talent we book and every single event that we work on.
It takes it to a whole new level. You're not just picking someone and putting them into
No.
dropping them down onto the stage. It's wonderful. And like I said, it's a pleasure working with you. I've learned so much from you. Pleasure talking with you today, as
Thanks.
always.
Let's do this again and focus on entertainment.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Because certainly there are nuances to that
Yes.
that
We
we
want to
should.
give people some ideas, but we don't have
Yeah.
time for today.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we will dig into that. Okay. So we'd like to make sure that everyone is aware about what's happening next with Please Welcome. We will be back here on LinkedIn Live in April. We are finalizing our guest right now, so make sure that you are tuned in to all things heroic for the announcement on that. And then on May 18th, Please Welcome will be back in Studio 15 with our featured speaker, Dr. Luana Marquez. Kris, tell us a little bit about Dr. Luana.
Yes. Dr. Luana is a Harvard-based psychologist who's written a new book called The Bold Move. She empowers people to identify and overcome core challenges that keep us from reaching our full potential. She pinpoints psychological avoidance. I find this fascinating. We all do that, right? We all avoid when we get anxious.
Yeah.
And she says that's the root of untapped potential and shows us how to overcome it to move towards a bold life. I don't know, but Gloria Estefan and Dan Harris, who is the author of 10% Happier, have worked with her and hold her in high regard. I'm thinking we might want to pay attention.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Super exciting. Great. So one of the extra benefits of being here for the in-studio events is that our audience gets to meet and chat with the speakers. They don't exit the stage, never to be seen again, right? I think I said this earlier. They want to mingle, they want to network just like everybody else. We do have a QR code down on the screen that will take you to the registration page for Dr. Luana. Get your seats early for that. The studio is limited seating, so register early. When we wrap here, we're going to play a little video. It's going to be a little snippet of just some visuals from Please Welcome. So we will hope that you enjoy that. With that, on behalf of Kris and myself and everyone here at Heroic Productions, thank you so much for being with us today, and we will see you in April. Roll it, McKenna.
Since 2004, the team here at Heroic has been setting the stage for brands of all shapes and sizes, helping their stories shine through in-person, virtual, and hybrid events. From strategy to creative, technical design, production, and complete run of show. Please Welcome is an event series experience that you can enjoy either as part of our studio audience or online. This is our opportunity to open our stage and welcome to our stage thought leaders, experts, entertainers, all with something really impactful to share, and all with amazing abilities to move people to action. Now, you might be asking why? Why did we create Please Welcome? Well, we've been in the event industry a long time, and we know that when you infuse the right talent into any brand experience, you now have an opportunity to transform that experience from usual to unique, from mundane to memorable. And boy, do we have memorable for you.